Friends and family, my name is Skylent. Hello, welcome, and I actually run the Video Game Party Club on my Discord channel. Please join, links in the description, comment below, and join us for Guild Wars 2 this month. And specifically, actually, I'm here to promote a 1v1 tournament, which I'll be giving away tons of key codes if you guys actually beat me, and we're gonna have a bracket and all sorts of fun festivities inside of Guild Wars 2, but really the pinnacle, it's gonna be the 1v1 tournament. So, looking forward to that. Hope you guys keep the hype alive. And to promote that, I thought, whoa, wouldn't it be cool to talk about like just the best arena PvP, battleground style MMO? Yeah, I think so. That's something that a lot of people really look forward to. And I've already talked about PvP sandbox style MMOs, open world, games that have good cat and mouse, things like that, Zergs and Zergs. But yeah, what about arenas? What about 1v1s? Which I have talked about dueling games, MMO or otherwise, but I have an experience with a wealth of different PvP options in the online spaces, especially MMO, but I haven't talked about the best arenas inside of MMO. We need to do that. Let's do it. Here's my top 5. All right, guys, starting out the list today, top 5, number 5 is going to be Elder Scrolls Online. This is the one that I have the least amount of experience with in terms of PvP, but I'm working my way up to it. I'm just really enjoying the slow pace of the questing, doing some dungeons. I'm playing like a vampiric healer kind of thing. I'm just, I'm role-playing. I'm having some fun. But the PvP is a great place to test out some different builds. And if you don't know, Elder Scrolls Online has this really awesome mix and match build system where you can take a class and then not even play anything like you would expect that class to play like. So I'm playing the Thief class as an example, but really I'm playing as a healer with vampirism stuffs. Okay, anyway, so when you go into PvP, you can draw different builds and all sorts of cool things, but you should know a couple things. The queue times can be long, just like pretty much any of these games, because they're not always just PvP games, but also Elder Scrolls Online, the PvP is really taken unseriously, in a sense. Like, it's actually team versus team versus team, so it's a kind of a battle royale-ish sort of thing, and, it's got some fun objectives. Like, it's not just like a hardcore CSGO or hardcore sort of like team deathmatch sort of thing. It's like you jump in and you got to queue for a random battleground, and it's just, hubs. Like, you just get random teammates. So it's 3 versus 3 versus 3, and you just try to do it up. There's no role queue or anything like that. It's just there to just kind of basically mess around. And that's totally cool. That's definitely in the spirit, I think, of Elder Scrolls Online, though I do actually wish they had a competitive proper mode, and maybe that'll eventually be put in, or maybe that's something that's unlocked later. I didn't see that or haven't seen any research on that, though I do think there is a Maelstrom arena. If that is, that's DLC though, so some things are locked by DLC, as well as some abilities are locked by DLC. Keep that in mind when you are thinking of like the fairness and competitiveness of Elder Scrolls Online. It's just there to kind of mess around, play the PvP, and really prepare you for the sort of realm versus realm versus realm, giant massive PvP. That's actually the star of the game. Number 4 is Albion Online. Surprising enough, actually, this sandbox MMO, which promotes heavily its open world PvP gameplay, actually has a tremendous amount of instanced content. That's going to be instanced, like, kind of leveling dungeons, and they're actually pretty decent and fun. There's going to be instanced PvP as well with arenas. Now, these are supposed to be treated more just like kind of like Elder Scrolls Online, where it's more of a practice run. So you're not going to lose all your loot. You're not really going to do anything here, though there are rankings. So that's neat. And it's really just to practice your builds. But Albion Online kind of goes a step further than that. In fact, there's actually a lot of instanced kind of content in this game. For example, you can actually go into Hellgate, which is like it pulls you into an instance and then it's a PvP zone. Also, the guild versus guild, like the proper competitive mode, how you conquest and have territory wars, is actually a team versus team instanced sort of kind of reminiscent of like a MOBA situation. So it's not just Zergs everywhere, it's not just ganks everywhere, even though this is a PvP MMO, there actually is a decent amount of instance content, especially also if you consider the dueling. I enjoy just going to a major city, having bets, and just dueling, trying out different weapons and things like that. So I don't know if you consider that an arena-style gameplay, but it is in an instance zone, and you can just, 1v1. Albion Online, I definitely appreciate it for all of its content, and it does have a little bit of something for all the different kinds of PvP players, and even PvE players, as long as you find with a little bit of cat and mouse, which is actually a tremendous amount of fun if you give it a shot. Halfway here on my list, my most played when it comes to the arena game is going to be Guild Wars 2. Now, when this first launched, it was an esport, and it had so much hype and potential. as well as its world versus world versus world, which is similar to Elder Scrolls Online, but its arenas are something a little bit special. However, I do really hate the gimmicky, silly kind of game modes that they have. Now, there are a bunch of different battlegrounds and different maps, and they all have like strange, radical gimmicks. However, you can actually 1v1, you can have the Conquest game mode, which is going to be the main queued up for game mode. You're basically going to be playing Conquest. But there's some other things you could kind of do. There's like this MOBA-ish map that, I don't know, whatever. Anyways, for the most part though, Guild Wars 2 tried to take itself seriously, and it kind of squandered that. But if you want to jump in, they actually do have in-game tournaments that you can just queue up for at any time. I think they run like every 30 minutes, every hour. They are timed a little bit, but you can jump in and, just try it out and you maybe get some cool rewards. Some people might be streaming it, promoting it. It's really neat. It's not the big esport that it used to be, but it's a really awesome half measure that a lot of games just don't even care about, like Elder Scrolls Online or Albion. Guild Wars 2, also when it comes to its actual visceral combat mechanics, a lot of people don't realize that every class is radically different and there's a lot of interesting builds that you can do, but like some classes are very action-based, they're very skill shot oriented, and even if you're playing a class like the Mesmer, which doesn't really have that kind of gimmick, playing with all these other skill shot classes, and it's all like this Dark Soulsian sort of combat where you have to dodge, giant heavy attacks, and then at the same time it's kind of World of Warcrafty where you're doing these big rotations and doing big burst combos. It's just really cool to see the different interactions of the classes. I just really hate the game modes, to be honest. It feels very wet noodly the way that people play that. Otherwise, the World vs. World is actually pretty cool, though it doesn't have many updates. But Guild Wars 2, with the name Guild Wars, is it fun with team versus teams and actually at the highest competitive level? Abso-freaking-lutely. There are some amazing videos out there on YouTube. I implore you go search those out for outnumbered World vs. World PvP as well as the arena combat. The sport of the game is alive, and it's being kept alive by the community, but it's definitely going to be awkward trying to get into it, I can assure you. And number 2 is going to be the MMO esport inside of South Korea, Blade and Soul. Specifically, though, I'm saying inside of Korea. Blade and Soul is a game that might not work for you, similar to other Korean or Japanese games like Black Desert Online, where the ping, the netcode, your connection to the game is going to define your gameplay. As well as Blade and Soul has a little bit of awkwardness, maybe with performance, but it is getting an upgrade to Unreal Engine 4 here soon. Regardless, guys, Blade and Soul, its 1v1 and its 2v2s they're supposed to be the best. They're actually broadcasted and kind of promoted like fighting game tournaments, and it really is a fighting game that just happened to be an MMO. It's wuxia, it's sexy, it's beautiful, and it's got like the pseudo anime / hentai look to it that I appreciate. I'm a man of culture. I know what's good shit. So Blade and Soul is definitely good shit. But also, Blade and Soul it's got end-game dungeons. It's got open world content. And overall, it even has a single-player story. So overall, it's got some stuff that you can do in things, but you can actually just jump into the arena, something that you can actually do with Guild Wars 2 as well, and a little bit Elder Scrolls Online. You can just jump in and things are generally equalized. Not all games are like this, not all MMO. I've played many, and over time, actually, some have changed it so that they are equalized. So Blade and Soul, you jump in, and for the most part, it's pretty fair. That's what I've seen so far. All the different classes seem pretty fun, though I personally played the Summoner class, as well, mostly the Berserker, actually. I really enjoyed the Berserker class a tremendous amount. It's one of the newer classes. So anyways, jump in. There's a lot of different kind of gameplay styles for Blade and Soul, but I will let you know that unlike maybe some other games that we've mentioned that actually populate the entire list, Blade and Soul does not have a hard trinity or really doesn't have defined roles exactly at all, period. But Blade and Soul is more like a fighting game. If you want to play like a 3D brawler fighting game, that's Blade and Soul. And number 1 is going to be the largest MMO esport, kind of next to RuneScape actually, but it's World of Warcraft. RuneScape has a lot of weird gimmicks and it's very strange. Like they have like the battle royale kind of things. They have like the 1v1 duel tournaments. That's all cool and everything. But World of Warcraft, in terms of this list for arenas, it's number 1. It's the biggest, it's most popular. As well, it probably has the most nuanced mechanics, though that is also kind of a double-edged sword there. Then again, this list isn't just biggest esports. World of Warcraft has to earn its place as my personal pick for arena PvP for its mechanics. So its mechanics are really deep. Its class definitions are, well, sometimes a little bit wibbly-wobbly, but when it comes to PvP, I think it's really interesting the scene that is sprouted up. Now, that's actually why I played Warcraft originally, was for the PvP. And one of the reasons why I got really big into like the battlegrounds and the arenas was because of a guy named Swifty, as well as dueling culture, which I now kind of carried over to Albion Online myself. And also we're having a 1v1 tournament in Guild Wars 2, remember that. So anyways, Swifty was an awesome content creator. He just did 1v1s with the best, you know, his warrior versus the best rogue versus the best mage on the server, stuff like that. I love that shit. But also World of Warcraft, not only having duels, but also does have the queued arenas, the ranked arenas. You do get actual awesome rewards that people grind for. They love it. They take it so seriously. Again, that whole sport scene is really awesome. And then you have battlegrounds, which are really casual, really silly, kind of similar to Elder Scrolls Online or, you know, the kind of the scene in Guild Wars 2. But the battlegrounds have really fun gimmicks. I would like their gimmicks more. They're more realistic in a sense. They almost a little bit more role play, and you get a little bit more shine, I think, out of the classes. And it's a bigger scale, you know, big team battle sort of stuff. It's not just arenas, but then of course it does have the arenas. So mostly talking about that, I really appreciated playing arena. I guess as like, I don't know, Paladin, really like when it was first introduced, that's when I mostly played Paladin, Burning Crusade, stuff like that. But I really like the battlegrounds most inside of World of Warcraft, which is why I'm really promoting it, just because it has such a wealth of instanced PvP content. But its arenas are sporty. They are the most sporty, you know, directly competing with there's not that many esport MMOs, other aside from RuneScape, right? But competing with everything else, I just feel like World of Warcraft is great. Now, talking about a little bit about that double-edged sword though, there's so many nuanced mechanics with these classes, it is going to be hard to learn, something that I reprimanded other games for, like Guild Wars 2. It's really awkward. There's so many choices. It's a little awkward. But also, it's kind of hard to watch, in a sense, like basically all these games are hard to watch. But World of Warcraft just has a lot of abilities that are tab targeted. They're not skill shotted. A lot of them are just numbers, and often you will actually see commentators say like, oh my god, what just happened? Because they're watching the game, they know the game inside and out, and they still don't know what just happened. So how are just average people going to watch it? How are average people just going to get into this scene? It can be a little strange. So I do implore for all these games, and especially World of Warcraft, definitely going to need to jump into those Discords, watch those videos, and watch tutorials. That's just sadly the state of PvP inside of MMOs, especially the sporty arena versions. But World of Warcraft is the safest bet, and probably the one that's going to be carried on the longest, truly as a proper esport, and especially with the class changes coming into Shadowlands and looking like this is going to be a right proper expansion, it's probably a good frickin' time to jump into it. And also with the rumored expansion for Classic into Burning Crusade, might get arenas there too, Classic arenas. Oh man, it seems like a really good time to be back into the World of Warcraft, especially if you like the Warcraft. Alright guys, that's it. That's my ranty, rambly review of these games' arena PvP. Now, I played a lot of different games that have had arena PvP MMO, but a lot of them are just absolute garbage. And these are the only ones that I felt were proper notable, but if I missed one or something, let me know in the comments below, absolutely. It's called Skylent Games, but it's the Friends and Family show for sure. And speaking of that, actually, remember, we got the 1v1 tournament for Guild Wars 2 coming up real soon. I'm going to post dates and everything when that happens, when that goes down. But please join us for that. Join my Discord, links in the description, all that good stuff. Video game party club, playing Guild Wars 2, playing games together, and just having fun. Having a hoot and a party, kind of. A little bit. Partying up for the party. Yeah. Anyways, I'm done. Outro out. Keep the hype alive, and I'll see you again next time.